Anime Last Stand has some of the most wacky and piss poor balancing that I've ever seen in my life, if you can even call it balancing, out of any anime tower defense game on Roblox. These guys are easily hitting the biggest numbers, and this wasn't something that they initially planned. It was sort of just a byproduct of the fact that they made every single unit just have a bigger damage number. Update after update, day after day, we have gotten to the point where units are now doing billions of damage, and that's sort of unheard of in these types of games, right? Like, you'll see units reaching like 200 million, maybe 300 million, right? Like back when Anime Adventures was popping and you had like a unique Ainz, he was doing well over 100 million damage, I'm pretty sure. In Anime Vanguards, if you have Monarch on a good unit, he'll be doing over like 100,000 damage. He'll never reach the millions unless you're using Ragna and you're like fully abusing his passive, but you get what I'm trying to say, right? The damage numbers that ALS is regularly hitting every single update would be enough to put any other game into fucking cardiac arrest. The weakest ALS unit is probably stronger than most of the entire Anime Vanguards roster, I'm not gonna lie. And I wanted to talk about that in this video because it's something that's been weighing on my mind for a while and I never really got to fully dedicate a video to it. But the exact same balance and the exact same horrendous power creep that this game has is the reason that they're so successful. And after getting back into ALS, right, and getting a lot more playtime on the game, grinding for a bunch of the godlies, getting glitched and glorious on them, grinding for meta units, getting meta teams, I've come to realize that the reason that these guys are as enjoyable as they are, and they maintain a pretty loyal fan base of players, all things considered, because even when Anime Vanguards updates, and even when it's like weekdays and it's not even the weekend, you will always see people on Anime Last Stand. And I never understood that until I started playing the game myself. It is genuinely a fun game. For what it's worth, if you like anime tower defense games, it is a fun game. It really, really is. And that's what I wanted to talk about in today's video. So without any further ado, let's get started. The first thing I want to talk about, obviously, the damage numbers, right? They had a JJK update recently. One of their new units, it was the like Yuta Gojo Fusion, is hitting 3 billion damage. And that's absolutely insane. I know a lot of people are going to tell me, well, you know, this guy's actually a pretty big money investment and you're not going to be able to use him in every game mode because of how expensive he is, yada yada. I'm aware, right? The fact that he exists in this game alone is already crazy enough. And it's not like this is the only unit that's hitting 1 billion damage. If you got the, like, what's it called? The Madoka Magic unit? The Magic Girl from the Easter event. She can easily hit over 1 billion damage as well. And she's not a fusion unit, she's just herself. And, you know, these super duper high damage numbers serve as sort of a double-edged sword, right? Because on one hand, it's a good thing. To see these insanely high damage numbers, it makes players feel happy when they grind for a unit and they feel like their efforts are rewarded in the fact that they get to see a higher damage number pop up on their screen. It's also a negative in the sense that you kind of lock yourself into a corner where, unless your next unit has a higher damage number than the last in an update, you sort of write that unit off entirely because why would it be worth your time if it's not doing more damage? Anime Last Stand really put themselves in an area where a stronger unit equates to a bigger damage number. And although that's the case in most anime tower defense games, I'd say Anime Vanguards does that a little bit differently because they try and focus on passives more than just the damage number itself. I think Anime Last Stand is a fucking like complete opposite. These guys definitely focus on the numbers more. Although their units do have passives. They didn't always have them, but most, if not all of their new units always have passives now, which is nice. But you get the point, right? They started an update cycle where the damage number would go up and up and up and up. And whenever a unit wasn't doing over 100, 200 million damage, you kind of just forget about them. A good example of this would be in the Easter egg event, or the Easter event with the portals, the breaches. God, I fucking hate breaches, dude. That was one of the worst things they ever added to the game, but I'm getting off topic. There was one character from Akame got killed, right? Her name was Red Eye in the game. She has long black hair and she evolved into a secret. She's only doing like 90 million damage at most when you have her evolved. That's so shit. And I know 90 million might seem like a lot. In ALS terms, 90 million, you're basically tickling the enemies, bro. It's not good enough. Nowhere near good enough. And there's no reason to run her even if she has type advantage, right? Because I'm pretty sure she's fire. So there's no reason to even run her against nature enemies when there are so many better flame units in the game that just they do quadruple her damage. A bit of a tongue twister there. And like I said, it's a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing in the sense that, hey, you get these strong units, you feel stronger. I've said it once and I'll say it again. A big appeal from anime tower defense games is that power fantasy that you feel of physically getting stronger and getting stronger units. Anime Last Stand will give you that feeling 10 times over. Like, they will definitely supply that need. It's also bad in the sense that they lock themselves in the corner of, we must make this unit have a bigger damage number or people will not care. And this was only further exacerbated, there we go. This is only further exacerbated by the fact that they were updating weekly. These guys were pumping out updates super duper duper quickly. So when you're making an update every single week and you have to introduce new units, how do you make players remotely interested in even playing the update? You have to make them stronger. You just have to increase the damage number more and more, because if you don't, then what would be the point of getting the new units, right? Another thing that I really think has contributed to the balancing of this game being as out of whack as it is the fact that you are basically required to have Overlord Plus on every unit that you use, or they are unusable. I'd argue that you need Avatar Plus. To be honest, I don't run anything that isn't Avatar Plus, because trait rerolls are so easy to get. Even Overlord is low-key getting power crept. I know that might be a crazy thing to say, right? How would a trait that gives you like 400% more damage equate to getting power crept? But trait rerolls are just so common in Anime Last Stand. You really don't have to settle for an Overlord. If I'm being honest, like a week of farming trait rerolls, just like AFK farming rerolls, you will probably get a glitched when it's 4x weekend. Like, you really don't have to settle for an Overlord unless you're super duper unlucky. I never use Overlords personally. Like, if my unit doesn't have Avatar, they don't exist to me. Like, I just don't want to use them. And the reason that trait rerolls became so common is, once again, they sort of just balanced the game around that. They balanced the game around you having these super strong traits. And since rerolls were so easy to get, even before I was making this video, rerolls have been extremely easy to get for a very, very long time because you can just AFK raids. And I think the meta right now is to AFK infinites. That's what I would usually do because it would give you rerolls plus food, plus you did have a chance of getting pearls. I'll talk about pearls later though. I really don't like the pearl system that much. But what I'm trying to say is, when every single unit has Avatar Plus, obviously they're going to be doing hella damage. But again, I think this works in favor of the game. And whether Brandon did this intentionally or not, it was a pretty genius decision on his move, because now you've cultivated a very loyal player base that will macro your game day in and day out, keeps your player count consistent, and you don't have to worry about necessarily dropping new content every single time, because people are always going to be farming those rerolls. I used to do that before I just kind of got bored of the game and stopped playing, but you get what I'm trying to say. The game's horrendous balancing works in its favor because it makes people happy. And I'd argue that if they were to change anything that they currently have going on right now, they would risk putting the entire game in a very bad state. They would jeopardize the entire game's player count because people are happy with the current system. I like the current system. Having these insanely strong characters that get power crept every single week, yes, it does kind of suck, right? You grind for a character and it's not meta like 2 weeks later, but it's not like the characters are very hard to get anyway, right? Like, a new update drops, right? Radinal fucking grinds everything out in a single day and does a showcase. Like, trust me, the units aren't that hard to get. And that's basically all that I wanted to say in this video, but there are a few extra little side things that I want to talk about. Number one is the fact that this game's pearl system, I don't like the pearl system. I don't like dusk pearls. I don't like the normal pearls. I wish that there was sort of a better way to get enchantments, because enchantments really make or break a unit. They're not as important as your trait, right? If you get glorious on a unit, you're still gonna mandatorily have to get an avatar or a glitched, but they make such a big difference that, especially on a godly unit, right? A unit that you're gonna be using a lot. If you don't have glorious, or at least the purple one, I think it's like mastery, the one that lets you do 15% more damage, but ideally you want glorious. If you don't have a good enchant on your unit, it really makes them feel very, very weak. Well, not weak, but much weaker in comparison to what they could be. And I really don't like that, because to grind dusk pearls, well, you can't grind dusk pearls. You sort of just have to buy those, unless you get some free ones every now and then. But The normal pearls, why the fuck do they expire after 3 days? That's the only thing I don't like. Because you can grind pearls. You can do it in infinite. You can grind out the tournaments. It's not ideal, right? It's not the best farm in the game, but you can farm them. Also, I'm stupid. You get dusk pearls from the normal tournaments, not the blue ones. But you guys know which pearls I'm talking about, right? The ones that are a little bit lighter blue. Why do they expire in 3 days? Who came up with this? What is that? What does this benefit? Who does this benefit? Genuinely just screwing over free-to-play players, because now you feel forced to use those currencies that you got, because if you don't, they're going to be gone in 3 days and you're not going to be able to use them at all. It's kind of stupid. That's kind of dumb. Also, this is like a little side thing. I never made a video on this, but I thought it was a pretty funny situation. Back when the Fate update came out, which was pretty recently, and they added the Gilgamesh Godly, their content partner, Otaku Gaming, he dropped like an entire showcase on Gilgamesh the Godly, but he didn't actually have to grind for it because he's a content partner, so he can just spawn in the unit for himself. And, bro, like, I felt so bad for Radinal, or Radinal. I'm just gonna say Radinal. I don't know how to pronounce his name exactly, but, you know, he's one of the ALS guys. Like, ALS is his main game that he covers on his channel. And this dude was on stream grinding out that new Gilgamesh Godly nonstop since the update came out. No breaks, no nothing. He was just hardcore going at it. And, bro, he was so sad when he saw that he didn't even get the first showcase out because someone else just spawned the unit in for themselves and made a video on it. I felt so bad for the guy, bro. I think that's also kind of messed up. That's definitely, that's got to be some sort of admin abuse, bro. Like, every single YouTuber that was grinding for it just got screwed over. Obviously, he still got views on his video. I just thought it was a little bit unfair, right? To just be able to spawn in the unit for yourself. But with all that being said, I think that's everything that I want to talk about in my ALS video. But to recap, this game is incredibly unbalanced and incredibly power crept. Balancing is basically not a thing in this game, and that is what makes it so fun. There's a certain amount of beauty in the chaos that Anime Last Stand brings to the table, and I wouldn't trade it for anything else. I think this game is perfect as it is, and shout out Brandon, because I remember before he took over, this shit had like 6-7k players. He brought that shit back. He is definitely knows what he's doing when it comes to managing games, because the numbers do not lie. But with all that being said, that will be it from me. Have a great day or night wherever you are. Stay tuned for more content. Let me know in the comments what you think about Anime Last Stand, and we will catch you in the next one.